thank you, Bernie. We have this morning Phil Dostier, and he is going to talk on the Stallings. And it's a story, basically, and it's a real story, real people from Detroit. And I was so impressed when he was telling me about it that I want Phil, I'm not going to try to squeeze in anything that he told me because it's quite a story. And I hope people will appreciate it. And
yeah, well, thank you. It's been a very important part of my life, right. And it goes back. When I thought about how to talk about it today, this is sort of a prologue to the interviews that I have conducted over the past several months with the Stallings family, and we'll go through that. It's the story of Detroit as seen through the lives of the Stallings family. And I think as we get into it, it becomes clear it's not just Detroit, but it's any large city. Chicago, but the focus on Detroit, but the things that happen there. So think of it as a prologue, and I want to start with a book that I came across soon after I moved to Linden Ponds, about a year and a half ago. And the name of the book is The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. And as I got into that book, it's a Pulitzer Prize winner, devoted 15 years of research and going into a number of people around the country. It's the epic story, I'm just quoting from her, the epic story of the Great Migration, one of the biggest underreported stories of the 20th century, and one of the largest migrations in American history. And that I thought, well, a lot of people make those claims about whatever they're writing about. I thought that ought to be something. And the more I got into it, the thoroughness of her work, very impressive. She won the Pulitzer Prize for it. She's been interviewed on 60 Minutes and CBS, PBS NewsHour, Charlie Rose Show. I mean, she's really gotten along. She was a professor at Boston University. And so that was another reason to pay attention, because I went to Boston University years ago. So I'm building around that. It's impressive to see, and as I read through it, what struck me is this family that I knew in Detroit. I was a minister in Detroit in a small parish in the heart of the city. And this one woman kind of really struck me as there was something special about her. That was years ago when I was there. I was there in 59, 60, 61 for 3 years in this parish. And this woman showed up at the church. She had, at that time, I think 5 children. The oldest one we hired as a babysitter, our first babysitter when our first child was born. But as I read this book by Isabel Wilkerson just a year and a half ago, I thought, boy, there's a lot of similarities between what she's talking about in that book and the Stallings family. So I called up Gladys Stallings. I've stayed in touch with her over the years, Christmas cards and that sort of thing. And I called up and I said, would you be willing to be interviewed? Because I was thinking of not just here, but Erickson has a Fox Run, another Erickson branch near Detroit. And she said, well, yeah, I guess so. And so that's how this began. And she has, one of the things, I'm going to just give highlights through it.
Yeah, I understand.
But she had a picture of a sweater that her kids gave her, and it was called Mom's Angels, and it lists all the names of the kids on there. I think we even have a picture of that but maybe not.
Okay.
Is anyone listening out there?
How many children are they? Why we're
well,
waiting?
there's 8 children.
There they are.
There it is. Yeah. Okay. There's 8 children. Terry, Donna, and Donald. Those were twins. Willa, Clifford, David, Leonard, Derek, and Lamont. Lamont's the last one. He's the adopted child. Mm-hmm. And that's so representative of her and her spirit. She's got, you know, who would think of adopting another child after they got 8? But she's just, her heart opens to the people in the street where she lived. This church was in the worst part of Detroit. Drugs, gangs, everything. There's a church that I served at, and she would walk down that street. She rode down that street on the bus, she said, and it looked like a safe place. She was a Baptist. This is a Methodist church. She was a Baptist, but she said, I think I'll change and come here because it looked safe as a place. So that was the beginning of my acquaintance with her, and it's the story that I'm telling is in 4 parts, and those have already been taken. All I'm doing is giving a prologue, an overview now. Right. But part 1 will be Gladys and Terry, where I interviewed them. Part 2 is Donna and Cliff. Part 3 is Gladys and Lamont. And then part 4 is a doctor, and all 3 of those I've named so far were videotaped out at Fox Run. Mm-hmm. The 4th one is with Dr. Howie Beckman, and he is one that he wasn't part of the family, but Gladys called me and said, I'd like you to interview him because he is a part of our family, kind of. I mentored him. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay, and I called him, and it was back and forth, and he was out of the country at the time. Well, when I finally got to him, I said, could you come to Detroit to Fox Run so we could interview you? And he said, well, let me get back to you. And as it turned out, it was easier for him to come to Boston. And as I got acquainted with him, he went to Brandeis, graduated from there, and then went to Detroit for his medical degree and training, and that was at Wayne State University in Detroit. The story comes out, but he's an outstanding doctor. He's won all sorts of awards, and he's a very impressive guy. So those are the 4 parts to the series. The other thing I would mention is that a lot of Gladys's life takes place in the 60s, the adult life, and the turbulent 60s. And Detroit was part of what happened there. A lot of protests about the Vietnam War, and she was very active in that, going to different groups and writing congressmen and such. And she even went to the Paris Peace Talk. Now here's someone that, the setting again, someone who grew up in, she didn't have any college education, and just living in poverty, but she had enough gumption, and she was going to get out there. And so she not only sent letters and stuff, but she joined the commission to go to Paris. Oh. And I wasn't even aware of that when I was there, but that was a part of her life. She met Martin Luther King 2 days. He came to Detroit 2 days before he was assassinated. Was another thing that is just amazing about her life. She was investigated by J. Edgar Hoover. The FBI was put on her in terms of because of the controversy that she was, you know, getting into these dangerous groups and stuff. It just so much, and then the rebellion in Detroit. It was a very turbulent time, and so all of this going on. And she got her degree at Wayne State, put herself through, and became a social worker for the city of Detroit, and won a Social Worker of the Year award. So that was another thing. And there's one of the things that impressed me about her was her combination of it's a concern for social justice and, you know, fighting those fights, but also she had a love for the arts. And around Detroit there's a lot of graffiti that got painted after the riot and the uprising and stuff, and you can see on the walls. This is one of the pictures. And she says, I want you to include that in the videos, because
that's art. That
is real art, but you can see the anger in the, look at the picture of the black American there. He's got anger, but it's also that art, even in the midst of the anger and the frustration that those people are going through. Here's another picture. And you can see in the background, it looks like a blue sky. No, that's painting on the wall, and that's the skyline of Detroit, way in the background. So it picks all this up. And then there's another, which I think goes with this, her love of the arts, is there's a drawing that her grandchildren did. It's the Three Fashionistas, here that is, by Gabrielle and Gladys Stallings. And she pinned that to her wall because that's part of her, isn't that, look at that, creativity, these little kids.
It's really, I mean, they claim that people shouldn't think they can't make a difference. And here's proving that one person, of course she's an exceptional person, there's no doubt about that, but she didn't say, well, I can't do anything, and throw up her hands and just, it's obvious, very impressive. Right,
it is. And I can go on and on and on.
Well, when you've got a person like that, you could.
Yes, and I think it's enough said. This is a prologue. I hope people will that'll pique their interest enough to listen to the others.
Like they say, one candle lit in the darkness brings light.
It's an amazing story. So we look forward to talking with people. If they have any questions, be glad to talk with them about it.
Well, I thank you so much for bringing this, Phil, and I hope people will pique their interest, because I think it's fantastic what one person can do. I mean, it humbles you.
Yes,
it really does. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're more than welcome. And then